Sometimes it seems like all couples have problems with communication, and I think they probably do. Communication problems is the most common issue that people tell me about when they call me up. I want to help you not have these same problems. Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Talk Love with Carol show. Today, we're talking about communication. Why good communication is a must-have to be happy in your relationship. And this is one of my favorite topics. Sometimes it seems like all couples have problems with communication, and I think they probably do sometimes. Just to let you know, it's communication problems is the most common issue that people tell me about when they call me up to say, can I work with them? Would I work with them? About at least 75%. I think it's more like 85. Anyway, so that's one of the reasons that I love to talk about this, because I want to help you not have these same problems, or just minimize them or fix them if you have them already. By the way, I'm Dr. Carol Henry. I'm a psychologist and a relationship coach, and I've been working with couples for 35 years. So I've learned a few things in that time. And right now I do private coaching and therapy, and I do group coaching, and I have courses for couples. So that's just who I am. So let's get back to why do 75% of couples, at least 75, have identify as having communication problems. And I think in part, and you may have heard me say this before, but I think in part we just don't learn how to communicate very well. Maybe we have parents who never talked about things, at least in our presence, or with us. We just didn't have any of that modeling. We didn't learn how to do it, or we learned not to do it. Don't bring that up. Don't be angry. Don't whatever. Don't disagree. And in schools, they don't really teach it either. So we're kind of left on our own. So let's just kind of pick it apart, or, unpack what's going on. So for most couples, they can talk really well about subjects that aren't about them. Like, how was your day? What did the kids do? What did the dog do? What went on with you in work today? And they have fun talking about these things often, and they feel close when they do. But when it comes to subjects about them as a couple, that's when the problems pop up. And it doesn't have to be literally about them. It can be about decisions that they have to make. And so that's when the problems come up. These topics are personal, often personal, and talking about them, especially when we disagree. And of course, that's what we're really talking about, when we disagree. Then we may have what may pop up for us, or our defenses, maybe any insecurities that we have, control issues, if that's a thing between the two of you, managing your emotion issues, and lots more. And that's where those problems come up. And they're in our important conversations. Some of them aren't important, but they get to be intense anyway. But especially when we're talking about high emotion, high stakes things, and we're having disagreements or conflicts. So today I'm going to talk about how it can go terribly wrong in these conversations and how you can turn it around and have disagreements that are respectful, loving, compassionate, and, by the way, that you can resolve. Okay. So, and there's going to be some actions you can take at the end. And so listen for those during what I'm talking about. Actions you can take to rescue a conversation that's going sideways on you, and rehab it so you can understand each other's points of view. Also, ultimately, so that you don't have as many of these kind of hairy conversations. I mean, I don't mean you don't have disagreements. Of course you do, but that they don't go so wrong. Okay. Let's start with this. Communication is a way we show love, we show agreement, we show positive emotions, that kind of thing. Communication is also a way that we show disagreement, criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and so on. And by the way, when I say communication in this context, I'm talking about talking, of course. I'm talking about listening. And I'm also talking about body language, facial expressions, posture. I guess that's body language. But, you know, if you're looking like this, you know, arms folded, looking away, you're communicating something. So just own all of that stuff. Okay. So why do we do this? Why do we show our, why do we get to be disagreeable? Why do we get critical? Why do we get defensive, contemptuous, angry, all that? We don't like it when we're not agreed with, especially in an important thing. We feel threatened. We feel angry. We feel lots of things. And we try to persuade the other person why they're wrong and we're right. So, do you recognize any of this? I mean, have you ever done any of this? Or are you perfect? We're human. We do these things. So we stop listening. We start focusing on ourselves and our own thoughts, even more than we usually do. We focus on being right, and we create this win-lose thing. Somebody's going to lose this argument if I'm going to win it. So then our emotions get intense, and we say hurtful things, and we lose track of love and compassion. We even lose track of our partner sometimes when it gets really intense, and get really over-focused on ourselves and how we're feeling, and and feel like we're supposed to say all of that stuff. We might raise our voice and talk in a way that's like yelling. And I want to say what I mean by that. A lot of times in a session, I've heard people say, "Stop yelling." And the other person says, "I'm not yelling." And if you want to take yelling to the literal, to a literal place, they're probably not yelling. But there's ways of talking that really are like yelling, even though the volume might be very normal. So talking really slow, like, "I want you to listen to me." You see the eyes, this look of intensity and look of, in a way, like contemptuous. And that, even though the volume might not be up, or it may be really fast talking, really, really fast talking, and you did this and you did that, and accusations, all that. That's like yelling. It feels to the other person like the same bad thing that the bad feelings that you get when somebody's actually yelling. So don't get turned around in that one. That's just one of those things that take you way sideways. I'm not yelling. Yes, you are. Okay, whatever. You're not being kind. We can say that. So how do we turn this around? How do we turn all these things? Now, I'm saying that some really bad qualities or things that we end up doing if we really get upset and it starts building and escalating. So I promised, I said I was going to talk about how do you turn this around? How do you turn it around ultimately before it happens? But let's get real. Maybe during it or after it, where you realize what happened. That's kind of how a change happens. First, we realize the change after we've done the whole thing, had the whole play out. Then when we get better at it, we notice it during it and stop it. And ultimately, we don't do it in the first place. But that's a process anyway. So part of what we need to do is have a mindset shift. And a mindset is your beliefs and your attitudes and how you're thinking about what's going on. So a mindset shift from I have to win an argument to, okay, we disagree about something. I'm going to really try to understand my partner's point of view. In fact, the ideal disagreement ends up with people feeling closer because they've really understood each other better at the end of it, no matter what the outcome was, as far as, did we resolve it or did we not? And are we going to just table it for next time? But I understand your point of view better. So seeking to understand, trying to understand, listening better, listening to understand instead of to rebut or argue better, right? That's the way you get it. The arguments escalate, but to have them go better, you listen to understand, and you really do listen. You pay attention. You're curious. You may even ask questions. Well, what makes you think that? Or what are the things, like, tell me this, because I have such a different point of view on that. I really want to understand your point of view. So what about this part of it? What about that? That kind of thing. In the way, not just to later use it to argue better, but to use it to understand your partner. Remember, you love this person. You cherish this person. And they're smart. So be curious. And then another mindset shift is realizing there's no win-lose that's going to go well. If you are trying to win, that means the other person is going to lose. And the relationship loses when somebody wins. That's not the point. The goal is to understand each other better and then to come up with something that works for both of you, right? So what do you do if you're really getting upset in the middle of a disagreement? Number one, you notice it. So that awareness is, of course, the first thing. Number two, you do a quick assessment. Can I lower my temperature right now? If the answer is no, and it often is, you call a timeout and you say this or something like this. I'm getting so upset that I don't want to continue right now because I think I'm going to just get more upset. So I need a timeout. I'll be back in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. And let's talk about it. Or I know we're running out of time right now, so let's talk about it later, after the kids are in bed or after we've had dinner or whatever it is. You call a halt, and you say when you're going to re-engage. That's so important. It's so different than just, I'm out of here, which is rude, and it's just sort of like abandoning the other person. This is something, if you both agree, then you absolutely go along with it. You don't argue with somebody calling time out because they've said, I'll be back in this length of time. And so what do you do when you take the time out? You own how upset you got, and you don't say, it's because she XYZ or he did this. That's why I'm upset. I'm going to get myself down. I am going to calm myself down, and then I'll be ready to go back. So the idea is to manage yourself, emotional self-management. Okay. So what we're trying to do is get to a point where we can hold on to our love and compassion in an argument and decide not to hurt or demean the other person, not to yell, not to make them wrong. Just manage ourselves and also stay with the program if possible. But if you can't, take your time out, manage yourself, and then come back. Okay, so what happens with this approach? Both people feel understood. You feel understood, and you understand your partner better. You often reach a compromise that you both agree to. So that is a good outcome without the hard feelings. And so you feel more connected, you feel respected, and you feel more secure. And that's an important one too, because when you know you have tools and you will use them to not let the thing get out of hand, then you really feel safe and secure. And you can talk to your partner about anything and everything. Just think how that would be. So many people tell me that they just don't talk about stuff anymore because it'll turn into an argument. These are some ways to rescue the argument. So I can't teach you all the ins and outs, tools and strategies in this talk, but it's an overview of how good communication creates connection and poor communication creates the opposite. So I want you to remember the thing. I'm going to make the list again. I'm going to say the list again. And I want you to listen to it now as you're going to take one of these things and focus on making that change in the next few weeks. See how it can change your relationship. Okay. So when you disagree, you seek to understand, you get curious, you stop with the win and lose mindset and think of, we're trying to understand each other better. Timeout is an option. Remember that. If you're getting too upset, you want to take a time out. You need to take a time out. Remember, the goal is to understand each other better and not to fight to the death or fight to the mat. Hold on to your love and compassion in the argument and decide not to hurt or demean your partner. Remember, you love them. Don't lose sight of that. Okay, again, take one of these, work it for the next few weeks, and see how it can change your relationship. I hope it helps. So if you want more help in communication or any other aspect of your relationship, you can contact me. I'm going to speak my contact info. Email Carol, Carol J Henry, Henry, PhD @gmail.com. Phone 206-390-5715. We can schedule a free call over Zoom to answer your questions about your relationship. No pressure, but if you decide you want to work with me, then we can get going. Okay? But even if you don't, then you've gotten some free coaching. Last thing I want to say is please join, if you care to, please join my Facebook group, Committed Couples Growing Together. Committed Couples Growing Together, where there's lots of tips and tricks and first notice about new courses or new offers that I have of any kind. So we'd love to welcome you in. So this was, last time I talked about a series that I was doing. This was the second one in the series, communication. So there'll be 4 more in that series. I called it six issues with, I don't know what I called it, I forget. 6 problems in relationships that you need to fix is the summary. Anyway, I hope I'll see you next time, same place. See you then. Bye now.